All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High Elohim and the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want to say peace to each and every one of you. In the name of His Son, Yehoshua HaMashiach, who we know as Jesus the Christ. It's always a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to bring a message contained in His Word. Never do I count it as a light thing to do so. In today's message, I want to deal with something that true believers deal with, and that is persecution. When you walk the path of righteousness, persecution is certainly on that path. You're a follower of Christ, and therefore, as He was persecuted, so all His disciples should expect that type of persecution. Not necessarily in the sense of crucifixion, obviously, but the rejection from the world. That is key. I'm going to read something here in Matthew, the 10th chapter. In Matthew, the 10th chapter, it says in verse 24, it says, "The disciple is not above his master, nor the servant above his Lord. It is enough for the disciple that he be as his master, and the servant as his Lord. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more shall they call them of his household?" So we should understand that if you're going to be a follower of Christ, there's going to be some rejection. And how do people feel about Christ? And I'm not talking about this false Christ that people put forth that was born on December 25th, the Europeanized version of milquetoast Christ. No, I'm talking about the Mashiach of the book. He was rejected by the world. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. Right? He was a light of the world, and men loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. See, that's what's going to happen when you choose Him. Now understand, He is the only way to gain salvation. It's not like you can say, well, I'd much rather just avoid that persecution altogether, and I think I'm going to go the way of Allah, or I'll go the way of Buddha, or I'll go the way of Krishna. There's no other path to salvation. And so this is something that you need to understand, that all believers need to understand, and it's important. So we'll talk about what we can all expect on this path. Let's go to 2 Timothy. This is something we can all expect. This is 2 Timothy. And we'll pick it up at 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, in verse 10. Now here Paul, in his epistle to Timothy, he explains this. He says in verse 10, "But thou hast fully known my doctrine, manner of purpose, faith, long-suffering, charity, patience." So he's saying, you know how I lived. Then he said something. He said, persecutions, afflictions, which came unto me at Antioch, at Iconium, at Lystra. If you go and read this in the book of Acts of the Apostles, what you'll find is this ultimately, you read it in around chapter 13, this culminated with him being stoned and left for dead. So he said, persecutions, afflictions, which came unto me at Antioch, at Iconium, at Lystra. What persecutions I endured, but out of them all the Lord delivered me. You know, when you read the word that says, I can do all things through Christ which strengthened me, people say, I can do all things through Christ, therefore I can win this lottery. Therefore I can win a football game. You know, really actually what that's talking about is being able to serve Him under any circumstances, even if it means your life. And when you see the Garden of Gethsemane passage concerning Christ, where he's going, death is imminent. He knew exactly how he was going to die. He knew when he was going to die. And it said the sweat dropped down like blood. He was full of anxiety because he understood the dehumanization and just the terrible way in which he would be dehumanized. And so he prayed for strength. He prayed and continued to pray as his disciples slept. He was praying. Okay? See, so when you look at again Christ, and you look at his followers, he said again, the disciple is not above his master, no, the servant above his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they shall persecute you. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub. See, that causes you to be rejected if you're going to follow him. He tells you this here. He says in verse 12, "Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution." Okay, he didn't say some, he didn't say most, he didn't say almost all. He said all. Yea, all that live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. Okay, let's go to the Old Testament here. Let's go to Genesis, the 4th chapter. Because here you see, all the way back in the Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, you see the first example of persecution for righteousness. This is Genesis 4 and verse 1. It says, And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So there was something wrong with Cain's offering, and therefore, if he wouldn't accept it, there must have been a standard that was already understood, that they knew that they had to meet, and he just didn't do it. And so he says he was very angry. That's what wrath means. And it says, And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted, and if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. Now, wait a minute. Why did he kill him? First of all, it talked about his anger. See, one thing, why was he angry? He's angry because, understand, if one is accepted, Cain was not accepted, but Abel was. Abel showing you that it can be done. That's what he was showing his brother. You can do things the right way. And people don't really, when they are not operating correctly, they have a problem with those who are operating correctly. It's kind of like if you have, for example, in a classroom, you have 30 students. 29 of them didn't do their homework, and one student, right before class, 30 seconds before class is over, the student who did his homework raises his hand and says, Miss Jenkins, yes, Timmy, Miss Jenkins, were you going to collect the homework? You know what, Timmy, I forgot about the homework. Thank you for reminding me. Everybody turn their homework in. The whole class, guess what? They have a problem with who? Timmy. Why? Because he did what you were supposed to do. Okay? But you see consistently throughout the text, you look at the prophets. As Christ said, he asked his own people, he said, which one of the prophets haven't you persecuted? He persecuted them all. And the persecution began even in the days of Cain and Abel. You read in one place where it says the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. But now let's go to John the 17th chapter. We'll pick it up in John the 17th chapter. We want to see why this persecution comes up further, because Christ tells you why it actually comes up as well. This is John the 17th chapter, and we'll pick it up at John 17 and verse 6. John 17 and verse 6 reads as follows. He says, now this is prior to him giving up his life, prior to his crucifixion, prior to his passion. He says, I have manifested thy name. He's praying unto the Father. He said, I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. Okay, so he is the spokesperson for the Godhead. Okay, and so now he is given the message that the Father gave him for humanity. And notice what he says here in verse 14. He says, I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them. You see? So it's the word that caused you to be hated, because he said, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Okay? And so now he also goes on to say in verse 16, they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is true. So now you are set apart. So true believers are set apart by the word, and they live according to the word. You look at Abel, there had to be a standard by which to make those sacrifices. So because that's how you worship him. You worship him in spirit and in truth. We know his word is the truth. So he understood what he was supposed to do, just like Adam knew what he was supposed to do. Abel was doing it in regard to that sacrifice. Cain did not. Okay? Similar thing here in the sense of you looking at the righteous, they do what thus saith the Lord, according to what's written. Not what they made up, not what they think he might like, even when it's really just your flesh that you're living according to. No, you worship him according to the truth. And that, when you do that, it is a testament that it can be done. I've had people, heard people, even in my family, say, don't take all that. Well, why is it written? And when you do it, and they're doing something entirely different, it can convict them. And now they have a problem with you. That's why I say, who is my mother and my brethren, my sister, my brother, and those that do the will of my Father? Because what happens is, he said they are not of the world. See, your family members can be in this world. And what he has done through his word, he has made a separation. He's come to separate. That's what the Mashiach did. He came to separate you, and even that separation can be from you and people in the world. Your mother, your father, they could be a part of the world. Your spouse can be a part of the world. So where now you are sanctified, and now people have a problem with you. That's just how it is. Let's go to show another example of this in Mark the 4th chapter. Mark the 4th chapter. And here you have the sower of the seed parable, and he tells you that it is the word, it is word is bringing about persecution. He says in Mark 4 and verse 14, he said, the sower soweth the word, and these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. And these, now he gives you another example, and these are they likewise, which are sown on stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, and have no root in themselves, and so endure but for a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution ariseth, notice what it says here, for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. Okay? But now, here's what you want to be. It says in verse 20, because it talked about those who are worried about the riches of this world, cares of this world. He says, and these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word, and then it says something, and receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. Okay? So you want to be amongst the ones that's bringing forth fruit. You want to be amongst the ones where that word takes root, and that is going to bring about persecution. And understand, persecution is coming in these last days. That's certainly going to happen just prior to its coming, particularly at the time of great tribulation. So with that, brothers and sisters, because there is no rapture, and with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. And we encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. We also have a Virginia congregation. We meet every Sabbath at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 153 Garrisonville Road, Stafford, Virginia. That's at the Rear Roof Inn there. Every Sabbath, which is Saturday, at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you will edify.